Hello and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Jacob Finley, founder and CEO of Fullbay, and I am here with Chris O'Brien from our team. Hey, Chris.
Good afternoon, Jacob.
Today we are talking about 3 critical tools to rev up your shop's motor, pun intended. So we're talking about motor, and we have a special guest from Motor today. Here we want to introduce him, Paul Mosak, Vice President and Heavy Duty Evangelist for Motor. Hey, Paul.
Hello, gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be.
Yes, morning for us. And great to have you here. So we just built an integration with Motor, and we want to introduce people to it and make sure that all questions get answered. And we kind of explain what in the world this is for people who don't know. But the reality is a lot of people know what Motor is. So we're going to speak to kind of all levels here. Yes. And before we do that, a little bit of housekeeping. So there is, we're in a Zoom webinar here. So there is the ability here to ask us questions. And we're also going to launch some polling questions to kind of get a feel for the audience. So down at the bottom of your screen, you have 3 icons there. One is chat. You can chat us a question. One's a raise your hand, may not use that one. And then a Q&A. So if you have any questions along the way, don't hesitate to chat it to us or ask us in the Q&A. And to kind of practice here, if you could, why don't you chat us where you're calling in from today. Yep. And we can make sure that that's working. So we'll try to answer these questions along the way. So go ahead and click chat and then just tell us where you're calling in from. We'll try to get to these questions along the way. We have time reserved at the end. And if we don't get to any, we will be sure to follow up with any unanswered questions.
Absolutely.
I was really good about that. So let me see if we've got some coming in. Yes, Oregon, Colorado, Texas, Illinois, Washington, Pennsylvania. So we're kind of across the board here. Thanks, guys, for doing that. And they're still rolling in. Okay, so just to get started here, what we're going to cover, first off, for those of you who don't know, we're going to give some background about Motor. What is Motor? And that should be interesting. Then specifically, what is FleetCross?
This is the interesting one. Yeah, FleetCross Motor. Is it Motor or FleetCross? Or
right.
Is it both?
Yeah, what's going on there? And then we'll cover the 3 critical tools that we have integrated with Fullbay now. The labor time guides, we've got 2 integrated. The parts cross-reference and the truck service guide. We'll cover that. And then we'll do a quick demo of what this looks like inside Fullbay. So basically, how do you use these tools inside the shop, inside your workflow?
Very slick, easy, right at your fingertips. You guys are going to love it.
Exactly. And then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. Okay, so let's jump in. Before we do, actually, I'm going to launch a quick polling question, if you could, just to give us an idea. Do you know what FleetCross by Motor is? So what's kind of your knowledge level about this? Yes, no, or I need a little more information. So if you guys don't mind answering there. When I worked in a shop, I knew the book. You know, it's on the shelf. It's ubiquitous in every shop, right? It's a great guide to have, labor guide, and that's the traditional kind of motor that everybody knows about, right?
Back in the day, you had the shelf all the way across the shop with many books.
Right, every year, the red, the blue, and so forth. All right, we got some good answers here. Show the results. Looks like the majority of you do. There are some no's, 25%, and some need more information. So here we go. Okay, so Motor. Paul, I'm going to tee this one up for you, but Motor is part of the Hearst Corporation. Motor's been around forever, right? Yeah. I mean, over a century. Can you give us kind of some background about the company? And my understanding is so William Randolph Hearst, if you've ever seen Newsies, is the bad guy, right? In Newsies, but I'm sure he's not a bad guy in real life. Or whatever. It was over 100 years ago, it doesn't matter. But he goes on his honeymoon to Europe, sees cars for the first time, and comes back with the idea of doing a magazine about cars. And that's kind of where Motor Magazine is born, right, Paul?
Yeah, that's correct. So he actually got into the newspaper business with the San Francisco Chronicle that his father gave to him and gave to him to run. And then, like you said, he went on his honeymoon. And back in those days, this was in 1903 or late 1800s anyways. And so there's only a handful of cars on the road. And what William did is he came back from his honeymoon and said, well, I want to create a magazine. And this is actually the first and only magazine that was actually created by William Randolph Hearst in our whole list of magazines that Hearst carries, like Good Housekeeping and O and everything like that. But this is actually from the core, from the creator. He created this motor magazine. And being ever the salesman, he would put lists of parts in the back of the magazine. So you can imagine, a handful of types of cars on the road. And Motor Magazine was actually a society magazine. And what it actually spoke about was what hats women should wear when they go motoring. And that's where the word motor comes from. It's from motoring, because they would on the weekend go motoring. And you got to know what you pack in your picnic basket, and you know what kind of alcohol you bring that doesn't pop the top and things like that. So he saw that as a society magazine, but in the back, he's very shrewd, and he got into putting actual parts lists in there. And then over the many, many years, and then the increase of car creation across the country, and Henry Ford and GM and everything, that list obviously became too much to keep in the magazine. And the magazine's still running today. And but the parts lists and the service information and the labor information that's been curated and created over these many, many years turned into a book product. And that's what Jacob and Chris were referring to, is those books going across the whole shop, from motor labor guides and motor specs, motor service procedures, things like that. So that really was the start of motor. And that's how we get to where we are today with a digital world.
So the light duty one is blue book, heavy duty is red. When I wrote a blog about this a few years back, when we were first starting, and the joke was kind of in the blog that this was Motor Magazine was like the honeymoon baby from that honeymoon, right? It's the thing that came out of it. And I think the hokey artwork that I put on there was a onesie with, I can't remember, but
yeah.
Our marketing team has since retired that image that I drew. But anyway, that's the idea. So it comes out of Hearst's mind and really turns into something that lasts over a century. Well, so that's the labor guide, right? What is FleetCross specifically? So we all know motor, but then there's this concept of FleetCross. How does that come into play, and what's the relationship there?
Yeah, so FleetCross was a company that I was a part of that started back in 1992. And what we focused on originally was a paperless shop. And what we would do is go into organizations that had many or multiple shops, and we would convert their paper documents to a digital format. And in those days, it was CD-ROM, and didn't even have DVDs. And so we would put whatever 300 megabytes of data on each CD, and we'd create a library that they could look up service procedures and things like that. And that was actually born into, as we talked to these repair facilities, they said, yeah, but we need parts information. And so that a light bulb went off, and we started building a parts cross-reference. And we noticed that in a lot of parts books, and even in the most generic parts book like a GM, in parentheses, there's an AC Delco part number that crosses to it. So we saw that and said, well, let's see what else we can glean from the industry and what's out there. So we started to compile it into a database. And essentially, that's where the name FleetCross came from, is because we were working with fleets, but we were also developing this cross-reference. Now, knowing that vehicle to parts information is not readily available in medium heavy duty industry, we focused on medium and heavy and created this company called FleetCross. And then Motor acquired us in 2007.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's this whole idea of getting the shop paperless. Motor buys you guys, and it was probably basically saying, hey, we've got these big, thick books. Can you help make those paperless too?
Right. They were on this a roadmap to digitize everything, and they had been for a few years, but the bulk of their business was in the light duty world, passenger car, light truck. So they were working on that side of it, and they saw FleetCross as a good fit to get parts information. And they had the labor guide, and they had some service information. And when we were acquired, I was one of the people who was given them the labor book and said, make this digital and put it with FleetCross. So that's exactly what we did. And since then we've created tools and it's updated and
Cool.
it's all embedded as part of our modules.
Okay, cool.
Right.
All right. So that's kind of what what Motor is and what FleetCross is. Now we've taken these three tools that we just talked about: the labor guide, the parts cross reference, and then the truck service guide. We've taken these tools and we've integrated them into Fullbay, and just kind of going through these. So the labor time guide. So there's the red book that everybody knows. You might have the blue book as well. The whole concept here is accurate estimates for labor times, including tests, right? So it's a 2018 Freightliner M2 and you're going to be doing a wheel seal job on it. You can look that up in the labor guide and find out what is the book time for that job. And that's pretty important, right, Chris?
Yeah. I think that for the most part, there's a lot of shops out there that have been doing this for years, and they're probably not looking up every single job that they have. So a wheel seal, they're going to know exactly what the times are. But as you start getting into some of the newer equipment or some more complicated jobs, where maybe you're going to do remove a transmission and it has a catalytic converter or something that's right in the way of this particular chassis, you really need to know exactly what you're getting into, because you might quote something for 7 hours, but it's really 9 hours. And then you're taking a loss. So that's where these labor guides really help you understand exactly how much time you should quote for that job and bill for, how much time your tech should come in under. And then it also starts to open up the avenue where there's procedures. Like, what if I've never done this before and I need to get to the service side and I want to get some procedures or diagrams?
Right.
Really starts to unlock and open up some other items.
So we believe, so Paul, we're big on transparency, right? And this whole concept of, especially in commercial repair, you need to be able to prepare an estimate and give it to the customer to set the expectation on what a repair is going to cost before you do, buy the parts and pay the technicians to do it, to make sure the customer pays for it on the other side. Then you're not haircutting invoices. It makes all the difference in the world. And so this comes into play in helping a shop estimate it, but also back up their estimate and say, hey, look, that's the book time. This might seem high and so forth, and we'll do the best that we can, but this is the standard time for this job. And having the Motor labor times behind that gives you a lot of authority there, right?
Yeah, I think it also helps with the technician. If you're just starting a shop or you're trying to understand, how do I hold these techs accountable, or what should the techs perform at? It lets you know if it's 1 hour to do a job, did the tech do it within the 1 hour so they're at 100% efficiency? Or did they do it in a half hour and then they've exceeded or went to 150 or 200% efficiency, which is where we're all trying to drive to, is get these technicians performing ahead of what we're billing.
Yep, definitely. And so with the integration, so you've got the book, you could always look something up in the physical book, but with the integration, you're already tracking the VIN of the unit. And we just did some major improvements to our VIN decoder. That's in there. We pass the VIN and the year, make, model, and so forth information over in the integration. So when we're feeding the labor times and you don't have to type that stuff in again, it just comes automatically. So you're not just searching like a generic brake job or whatever, or transmission rebuild. You're searching specifically on the year, make, model, and engine of the vehicle you're on.
Yeah, and it's right inside of the service order. So right when you're providing your recommended service, you start typing in some keywords, which we'll show you in a few minutes. It starts to serve up all of the items tied to, say, a brake drum or a brake job,
right,
specific to that VIN, so you can get right down to a slack adjuster or whatever it is that you're working on.
And you may end up concluding that the amount of hours to do the job should be higher, right? But this at least serves as a jumping off point to get you in range. And then based on your professional judgment, of course, you can change it from that point. But it automates some of the kind of rigorous analysis and so forth and thinking for you, and gives you something to kind of fall back on.
Yeah, especially if you are trying to make a commitment to when the truck will be ready. How long will you have the truck? I need it back by Friday. How do you know if you can get it done or not? You could go right to this labor guide and say, hey, it looks like, yeah, we should have plenty of time to get it done based on my schedule and what I'm seeing here in the guide.
Yeah, like an old boss told me once, your decisions are only as good as your information. And this gives you some pretty good information. So, and Paul, you guys are updating this every month, right?
Yes, definitely. Every make and model that's coming out, you know, especially in today's industry. It's not all happening in September like the old days. So it's happening throughout the year. So whenever we see new year and model combinations coming in, we're attacking those as quickly as we have the procedure information and anything that's different from a previous model. So we're updating it as quickly as possible. Whenever we get that information, ends up being monthly is our base update process.
And what's cool is because this is all cloud-based, like you guys update it on your servers on your end, and the end users don't even know what happened, but the next time they do a query, it's all up-to-date information, versus with the book, you have to buy a new one every year, right, to stay up.
Actually, the book is only every 2 years, to be honest with you.
Every 2 years, I'm sorry. Yep. Every 2 years, yeah. So instead of every 24 months, you're getting monthly updates and maybe some hot fixes in between. So that's the labor guides. Everybody knows the book. This is the book, and it's better than the book because it's fed directly into your workflow as you're doing preparing the estimate and so forth. So you're getting all the benefit of the book, updated more often, and super fast to access. So that's the labor time guides. Next thing is the parts cross reference. So the FleetCross that you guys worked on, Paul, this is what you're talking about, where you found that there was a lot of demand for parts cross reference to be electronic, and so you built it. So essentially, you can find the right part you need to complete the job. Maybe the OEM part isn't available, or whatever part you're looking for. You can hit up the parts cross and see if maybe you have something yourself in stock that works, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Or something else is available.
Used to do it all the time. A filter, maybe a little bit shorter, maybe a little bigger. You normally would put a larger filter on if it would spin on. But yeah, absolutely. If you need to get the truck back on the road, you've got to have access to what will fit that unit.
So we have a pretty good parts cross reference capability inside Fullbay, getting better and better. Just did a great release on it, and that's great, but this gives you access to millions of cross-reference parts. So you can always set up your own cross-references in Fullbay, but this cracks it wide open to all this information, which all you guys, again, are updating monthly, right?
Yeah, actually, this one happens weekly, but our major updates are monthly.
Okay, so there's constant changes coming in here.
Correct.
And, you know, in the normal day-to-day, Chris, I mean, how often does this come up for a shop?
Yeah, it depends on if they're stock, right? If they have it in stock or they're carrying inventory, but this is fairly common where you need to find a like part. What's nice inside of Fullbay is we're keeping track of your special order history, plus we're serving up tools like this. So I can see the last time I bought a part for a specific truck, narrow it down by VIN, by vendor. This just takes it to a whole nother level where it complements what we currently have within the system. And we'll show that here in a few minutes. I think it's super powerful. We're basically taking the best of your order history, what you have in inventory, allowing you to kind of see and cross-reference real time. Then we're also serving up a parts cross that's through FleetCross, which is just over the top. It's icing on the cake. Yeah,
part of our overall goal to give you situational awareness. We want to give you the right information at the right time when you need it, and the relevant information. So yeah, Paul, what else on parts cross-reference? What else would you say here to kind of give it color?
Yeah, so a lot of people ask, and you know, the holy grail in the medium and heavy duty industry would be a VIN to parts lookup, and that's not what this is, and it's not that way for a few different reasons. But the OEs keep that information pretty close because it's a competitive market when they're speccing vehicles and speccing specific parts to vehicles. You know, you can imagine between FedEx and UPS, they don't want each other to see what parts they're using to build their trucks because they can deliver a package in 0.3 hours quicker than the other guy. Right. And with that many trucks, that's millions of dollars a year saved in time. So what we did in FleetCross is looked at the industry from a part manufacturer side of the business, knowing that part manufacturers are also suppliers to the vehicle manufacturers. We said, well, how many parts does this manufacturer carry, and are there cross references in the industry? So that's what we focus on. We have a running list of prioritized manufacturers, and we also use the use cases and use reports within FleetCross to sort that list and prioritization. So we're always looking at the most popular looked up parts and manufacturers and making sure that we get the latest information in there as quickly as possible. With the idea is, yes, you may have an OE number, but it's going to cross to this, and we can give you an alternative, or vice versa. It can go back to an OE number. It doesn't have to be always to the aftermarket. So that's really the key. It's a huge cross reference in it, and it's a lot of information that's at your fingertips.
Paul, what would you say the accuracy level is of the parts cross?
Fit, form, and function, I'd say it's almost 100%. I'm not going to say it's 100% because I'm a database guy, but it's pretty close. There's a lot in there. The hardest, or the things that sometimes are not accurate is when the information that we're gaining it from, the manufacturer information, came to us incorrect. And we've even pointed things out back to manufacturers saying, you have two parts crossing to the same part and they're actually different dimensions. So they have to correct their catalog. So it's not 100%, but it's pretty close. A lot of it is from the source, and we help them as well.
Cool. So that's parts cross.
Yep.
Third tool is the truck service guide. And so what this is kind of an amalgamation of, inspection sheets, wiring diagrams, step-by-step procedures, and so forth. Essentially where you can go in and it's not going to have everything. It's what's available. But you can go in and access this stuff if you come across an issue and need some help. Right, Chris?
Yeah. So this again goes back to when we show you Fullbay. You can create custom procedures for yourself. Like you've done a wheel seal 1,000 times, you're going to have your specific procedures to ensure there's no comebacks. But if you're getting into jobs that you're not familiar with and you're getting into uncharted waters, this tool is super handy. Instead of going to a book, your technician right inside the shop, maybe even on the side of the road, can access this as long as they have the internet connection right from the application, right directly from a service order, and ultimately see the breakdown of how that part is assembled and or the procedures to remove or install.
We have a question here, just back to the labor time guide. The labor time guide appears to be driven by make, model, and VIN. And that's right, Paul. So this is driven, the labor time guide is driven by VIN, correct?
Yeah, so it does have a VIN decode, and it decodes it to year, make, model, and then engine make and model. So at least the core components of the vehicle. What it doesn't break down is down to the bill of material. So there is a difference. It is a VIN decode to the year, make, model, engine, and then all the labor associated to those elements under that vehicle.
This is where there's limitations in heavy-duty VIN decoding because of the custom spec that many fleets will get from the OEMs, right?
That's correct.
And Chris can wax poetic about this, about all the things that they did when he was running a fleet to cover warranties and so forth, and get some concessions there. So the spec just is all over the place depending on which fleet is ordering and what use they have for the equipment, right?
Absolutely. Like we were for us, on our in-town trucks, we were pretty passionate about automatic transmissions. We felt it gave us an advantage from a safety standpoint because it wasn't maybe the most economical on fuel from some of our testing, but it kept two hands on the steering wheel. And so we would spec that, or we would spec certain clutches or certain brakes, or we had different things. It was all about longevity and warranty. And if we were looking for another like part, we actually would go to a parts cross and say, what is the identical part that maybe has a better life expectancy or stronger warranty?
Yeah, for sure. So at the end of the day, you do need to go and you can document this inside Fullbay on the individual components, go in and figure out what is the engine serial number, transmission type, so on and so forth. There's another one here. Is there a way to look up labor times from the component level up, Paul?
Within FleetCross, there is. We do have major components broken out. So if I'm not sure how Fullbay integrates that, but you can go into the engine directly or major components, and that would be like transmissions, as Chris mentioned, as well as like fifth wheel, dollies, refrigeration for trailers, things like that. So there are major component groups that are not specific to certain vehicles. So they are set up as major components.
Gotcha. We've got a few more questions. We'll get to those here in a minute. So truck service guide, it's there. You guys are constantly adding to it. Can you give us a kind of a flavor of what's to come on the truck service guide and how often it's updated and so forth, Paul?
Sure. Yeah, the truck service guide, it depends on the vehicle manufacturers and how they're presenting their information with their new models and things like that. But we're constantly calling the vehicle manufacturers and processing information. Ultimately, currently, this doesn't get updated but once a year because there's so many things to compile and so many different aspects. Just these three examples alone take quite a bit. So right now, that's updated annually. There are plans in the future to make it more quickly, whether it be twice a year or, like everybody is trying to get information out more quickly. But right now we're at a year.
Gotcha. And just to kind of recap here, the labor time guides, there's two available. There's kind of the medium duty and then the heavy duty that we have integrated inside the workflow through an API with Motor. The parts cross-reference you launch from within Fullbay. We are working on a full integration inside the app, so that's coming pretty soon. And then the truck service guide, because of the nature of this with the wiring diagrams and so forth, you launch it from Fullbay and it opens up Motor in another window, just like the parts cross-reference currently does. And we'll see that here in a minute. So that's what that is. And of course, we want to see a tighter and tighter integration on that one as well in the future, as you guys, Paul, make that available, right, through an API.
Yep.
So those are the three tools. I want to launch a quick polling question here. This is the next one is, are you using any of these critical tools in your shop? So the labor time guides, parts cross-reference, truck service guide, or none of the above? If you could answer that.
Looks like a fair amount of parts cross-reference and labor.
Yeah, looking pretty good. So I'm gonna end this and just quickly share the results. So for the most part, labor guides, majority labor guides and parts cross-reference, a little bit less for a truck service guide, and about 20% none of the above. All right. So how do you use these tools in the shop, right? The way I think about it, there's physical tools and there are non-physical tools that can be just as valuable and production increasers, right? Efficiency increasers. So these three tools, how do you use them? So inside Fullbay, this is how it works. So bear with me here. I'm going to fire up Fullbay so we can see this. All right. So first off, I'm going to show you the labor time guide. So I'm in a service order here inside Fullbay. I've got my complaint cause correction here. Complaint is oil is all over the ground, so on and so forth. I'm going to search here in the recommended service, and I just start typing brake drum. And here I just have brake DRU, and any global services I have that match would show. And then underneath that, any motor based on the VIN or year, make, model of the unit that we're working on. This one happens to be a 2005 Freightliner M2. Based on that information, it's going to serve up these suggested services with their accompanying labor times, right? So for air brakes, brake drum, reface, 0.2 hours, repair and replace or renew, 1.5 hours. It's all right there.
Yeah, what's really nice too is if you notice this is service 1.1. So let's say that you were doing 2 or 3 different labor line items. You can add additional services. So we can drop one in, we can add a secondary service, and you can break down these labor items to show the customer why you're billing so much, or literally breaking down each leg of the repair. Yeah. With these labor times.
Yeah, exactly. And then if I choose one of these things, it'll populate the hours for me and the readout of the recommended service. And if I've got everything else populated, I can just mark this as diagnosed and I move on. And of course, as always, before you send the estimate to the customer, you have a chance to review. So maybe you feel like, 1.5 isn't enough. it needs to be 2. You can always adjust that after you choose it from the drop down.
And then up in the upper right, if we were going to add another labor time, we just press the add new service, and we would add a second, a third, or a fourth.
And just do it the same thing.
Exactly. So you might have a tear down, a rebuild, et cetera. It just depends on the scenario that you're in.
Yep, exactly. So that, go Chris.
Yeah, and then one other thing too, if for any reason you don't see your key, you're typing in your keywords and your recommended service, and it's just not coming up, you're not finding what you're looking for, super easy. There's a button that says labor time right beside the motor icon, and you can literally just drill right into motor.
That is correct. And then the same concept here for actually have access to all of them here. So I can go in here and I can launch the truck service guide and the parts cross-reference straight from here. So truck service guide, parts cross-reference. For the parts cross-reference, let's say we're going to do a B99 filter, right?
Cat engine. Yeah, cat engine.
Here we go.
There we go.
So I put in B99. I get these results here. Now, this is not the cross-reference here. It's just the results of my search. So if I see the manufacturer here, so I'm going for the Baldwin filter. I click on it from here. Once I click this, I will get the part cross-reference. So here we go. This is just my search results. I click on the Baldwin, and then it brings up here in yellow at the top is the filter I'm keying off of. It's the one I searched. And then below are all the cross-references. So you can see there's a ton on this one. There it is.
Super handy.
Yeah.
Nothing like being on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, and maybe you got a Fleet Pride or a Napa or somebody nearby and you need to find what the number is.
Helps speed things up. Exactly. And then also from that, so we got the labor time guide, the parts cross, and then the truck service here. Walk us through this, if you could, Paul, how this kind of operates. You start at the vehicle system level, right?
Yeah, it's kind of component driven in a lot of ways, except for like wiring diagrams. That's generic, includes all. But basically, whatever you're working on, you want to get into that wiring diagram. You can then choose a make and a model or engines. You can look at different service procedures throughout as you're selecting, what you're working on. And then everything that's presented at the right, if you see links or underlying numbers, you can go look at figures and things like that.
It's going to give you the wiring diagram or whatever.
Yeah, this is amazing. Like when just if anybody's doing any kind of wiring diagram work, this is pretty nice. I mean, speaking to the choir out there, but if you're going to go tap into something, not every wire you can just tap into. You want to know which one is headed to the ECM and stay away from that. You want to get to the correct starter wire, ignition wire, et cetera.
So that's the wiring diagrams. And then the same concept of here on the components themselves, right? So this is where you go component level. You want to see if it's a CAT engine or whatever. We go PACCAR engine here. And then based on the engine, I can go into the different parts of the engine and see, engine oil, replace the engine oil for the MX-11 engine. There's the procedures 1 through 7. Should be pretty straightforward, but sometimes you need those procedures. Yep. So that's all there. So we got the wiring diagrams, we got the step-by-step, and then there's inspection procedures. It depends on what we're looking at, right, Paul? Like we're not going to see inspection procedures on everything, or procedures, like replacement procedures on everything, right?
That's correct. So as you mentioned before, it's anything that we can gain access to and put in here. And not all of it is consistent because every make presents their information differently.
Yeah, what's kind of nice too, though, is if you click into one of them, you'll get another illustration tab. So if you just click into one, it just depends. So this one has procedures and an illustration. So it's super clever. Just a little joke here. Jacob, your son, 16-year-old son, cutting out the catalytic converter on your minivan to make it sound cool.
Right.
I don't know if he would have got the diagrams to do that,
no.
But this might have helped him get started.
It might have helped him put it back together after too.
Yes.
Which I required. So that is the truck service guide. So it's got quite a bit of information here. Some of it is discrete data like that, step-by-step information. Some of it's illustrations. You go down to wiring diagrams. It's pretty much all in illustrations. It's all there. And once again, there's several places inside Fullbay once you have this turned on where you can launch it, one of which is directly from the service order. you can launch it directly from there.
I think that this is super handy and clever. And then some of you, if you're in the parts department and you're like, hey, I don't work on service orders, maybe we can just switch over to parts and go to inventory. We have a direct line to the FleetCross right here as well when it's turned on. So you can access from the inventory. You need to look something up. You're trying to replenish and you're like, well, I don't have my cross-reference set up in Fullbay. I need to find another part and see if I have it. You can launch the parts cross right from your inventory.
Yep, exactly. So that's how it works inside Fullbay. Of course, we have a quote here from Tom. It's a great tool. You don't have to use it, obviously, to run a shop, but we, had a lot of demand to integrate with you guys, Paul, and we made it work. And so far, it's been really good. Now, if you want to if you're already a Fullbay customer, if you want to turn this on, it's really easy. You go to the integrations page in the app, you turn on Fullbay Connect, and then you toggle motor on. Pretty straightforward. And yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, maybe we just show them in the app. So where's the integrations? Since we're here, let's just show them. It looks like underneath your name in the upper right.
Top right.
There's just, click there, and then integrations.
There's an option for the integrations page there.
If you don't have access to that, that means you're not an owner or you don't have rights to do that, right? So you might need to be an office manager, service manager, owner. Once you're in here, Fullbay Connect is on.
Gotta make sure Fullbay Connect is on, and then down here on the motor card, you turn it on, and when you do, it's going to launch kind of a pop-up like this where you can choose which one you want to turn on. So we're talking about we got the labor time guide. There's 2 versions of that, depending on what you need. And then the parts cross and then the truck service guide. You just turn those, check the box next to the ones that you want to turn on, hit save. It's going to automatically charge. Obviously there's a monthly charge for this. These are $49 a month each. Parts cross is there, truck service guide. You turn them on, hit save, it's done. You immediately have access inside the shop.
Yeah, and if you notice, there's a video right there. So not only do we have help and training to walk you through this, there's a video right here to explain it. If for any reason you're uncomfortable and you want to call into support, our support staff is ready to take a call like this and walk you through, but it's super easy. And then this is a monthly agreement. So some of you are like, well, do I have to commit to a year or anything? You do not have to commit to a year, but you have to commit to a month. As soon as you commit to us, we commit to motor. So you just have to fulfill the 1 month and that's it.
Right. There's a cost to us where we turn around and pay motor for the integration.
Yep. But we're not seeing anybody turn it off. Let's just put it that way. Once you have it, it complements what you're already doing. I couldn't imagine not using a tool like that. It makes money.
Now, if you're already a motor customer, you may already have a contract with motor. But you maybe want to have the integration turned on inside Fullbay. There's a way to accommodate that. So you need to continue to honor your contract with motor. So we don't want you to call up motor or try to break your contract or anything like that. You need to fulfill your contract with motor. But in the meantime, there is a way to turn it on. You just need to send us a copy of your agreement so we know what the term of the agreement is, when it expires and so forth. And for the remainder of your agreement period, you can turn it on in motor. We still have to charge an integration fee that we turn around and pay motor for, but it's less. So contact us and we'll get you the pricing on that. We just need to copy that contract. You can just shoot us an email, support@fullbay.com, and we'll take care of you. So that's how it works. Perfect. But if you want to sign up directly in Fullbay, contact us or just go to the integrations page and just switch it on and it's done. So quick polling question here. Bear with me here. Essentially, would you like to know more about the Fullbay plus motor integration? Yes, not right now. I'm already using it. If you want to let us know there, we can help you turn it on. And it's been really good, right? Glad we were finally able to get this done and get the motor integration done, not just the labor guide, but
yeah, excited to see the new stuff we're doing with it as well. So we're about ready to launch some additional advanced cross-reference stuff, internal plus complement it with motors. So this stuff is super exciting to continue to streamline the workflow of the technician in the shop.
Right, exactly. We're being relentless. All right, thanks guys for that. And then just to recap what we covered, what is motor as a company or as an entity? It's still part of Hearst, the Hearst family, owned by the Hearst family. So what is FleetCross? We covered that. The 3 critical tools. So labor time guide, parts cross, and truck service guide. All 3 you can turn on inside the app. Labor time guides, there's 2 of those. And then we demoed how to use those tools inside the shop. Real quick about Fullbay. If you're not with Fullbay already, it's cloud-based shop management. So go paperless across the board in the shop. So from repair request all the way through to invoicing, Fullbay can handle it all. And it covers in the workflow, it protects the owner's interests. So you can turn on protections that allow you to mark up parts correctly, charge the right labor time for the right customer, all of this, get authorization for repairs. If you want to know more about Fullbay, I'm going to launch a question here. Just respond to this with a yes, and we'll reach out to you and we can give you a demo. And so you can see what we built, see if it's right for you inside your shop. If you're already a customer, that's awesome. That's it. So I'm going to go to the Q&A. I'm going to keep that open just a little bit. And in the Q&A, bear with me here. So we got a question here, Paul. Are parts cross references listed considered OE equivalents, or might they be aftermarket in some cases?
They're actually both. So obviously, the industry is driven by the vehicle makers, and but they use part manufacturers as their suppliers for parts that they don't make. So there's the way the parts industry works is they usually use the same part. They may put their own, as a vehicle manufacturer, their own manufacturer on it, but then there's an aftermarket equivalent that is from that supplier or that manufacturer. And then ultimately there's that supplier of parts competitor, which is a cross-reference. So we have it all, and it's all available in there, and that's why they're designated with their vendor or manufacturer, depending. I think the label in FleetCross is manufacturer, which is always true. It could be a vendor name as well, because you will see, as Chris mentioned, the CarQuest parts and the FleetPride parts and things like that. But you also see Freightliner and Volvo and different things like that. And then ultimately more competitors of the part manufacturer. So it's all there.
Okay, got it. How does Motor differ from other labor time guides? There's others out there. So obviously Motor was the first. What's the differentiator in 2020?
Yeah, really it's our dedication to research and accuracy in that labor time guide. So we always consider our labor time guide kind of aftermarket guide to labor, because we look at our labor guides as a little bit more realistic. So a lot of people start with the warranty times. We don't. We start with the service procedure, and then we have subject matter experts that have either worked in shops or worked at dealers or worked at manufacturers that actually help develop the labor times. And so we're constantly researching, and we've been doing it for 80 some years in the medium and heavy duty industry, from the book until now to the digital age. So it's really just a dedication to the breadth of coverage as well as accuracy to the real world.
Thanks, Paul. I think we've got time for one more here. So is fault code troubleshooting available through the service guide?
Yes. Fault codes or DTCs are available in the service. They can be looked up, I believe, in the specifications or the engine segments of the service guide. So they are available. You can look up codes.
Cool. Real quick, one more. So for Navistar International, when are you guys getting updates for Navistar International on the truck service guide side?
Yeah, so truck service, a few years ago, we were asked to remove the Navistar because we were working with them on a different project. And we're actually in negotiations right now to get them back in there. That's one thing that we've been trying very hard for a while to get it back in there. And we're speaking to their service organization now, and hopefully that's going to be sooner than later. I don't know when it'll be, but we are hopefully getting it back in there.
Cool. All right. Actually, one more. I know I'm kind of squeezing this in, but do we also get diagrams of parts locations on engines and any other location of the truck?
If that's available, so part location is very popular in the light duty world. So you can look up location for a lot of parts specifically for light duty. In medium and heavy, it's all what the vehicle manufacturers offer. Some do offer diagrams along with the procedures, and some don't. So I can't say that we have it carte blanche across everything, but there is definitely some service procedures that has part location information or diagrams involved.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. And thanks so much for your participation. Appreciate it. Appreciate the partnership. And if you need any more information about this integration, go to fullbay.com/motor. And of course, Fullbay Connect. This is a great addition to the Fullbay Connect family. If you need an integration with the Interstate Billing Service, FleetNet, turning on your phone call, text messaging notifications, or just our API in general, turn on Fullbay Connect. That will get you access to Motor and these other things. And thanks for your participation. Again, fullbay.com/motor, or you can sign up directly in the app. Paul, thank you for your time. Look forward to continuing to work with you guys and speak to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.